Alright, so this is a book review of The World is Flat. I got a bunch of pages here. I'm going to go through things that are that stood out to me in these 500 some odd pages. It's 554 pages. There's some things that stand out to other people, but I'm just going off of what seems interesting enough to me. So this is a review, and I'll just say, like, maybe for the review part in the beginning, this is an interesting book, but it was dry. It put me to sleep quite often. I struggled to get through it. I started reading it about December 2018, and it's August, September now, so 9 months. It took a long time. I was pick up, put down, and I'm sure there's a lot of African Americans on my channel. So that's it. And African Americans Africa is mentioned in the book. All right, they refer to Africa. It's in the third world country. It has fallen behind on the flattening of the world. So that's mentioned. I think I took a note of that somewhere, especially when I gave that one video of how countries are represented in a city.
And then I'll come back over.
Whoops. I was going to just play this too while it's in the background. How does that look? So this video that's playing is on my Daily Roamer channel. It's just random drive. I'm just going to play that kind of in the background just for the fun of it. Okay, that's about it. I'm relying mostly on the notes, and there's a lot of interesting things. Like, my first impression is, what do you think of when you see the world is flat? You think, oh, it's some crazy person who thinks the earth is a disc-shaped object that the sun revolves around. Those crazy people. I thought that too in the beginning, but then I read into this book. I got this book in Scottsdale, Arizona. Paid $1 for it at the library, the give and take book area, and just for something to have. And I went into it with an open mind, and it really reported a lot of interesting things. It's very biased. The book is very biased on issues. He's a globalist. This author's definitely a globalist. Awaiting Travis to acknowledge your presence. Okay, yes, Evan, I see you, and you have been you've offered very interesting insights into subjects. I cannot thank you enough for your insights. So this was written in 2005, and I've written some notes in here that show how it is dated. I mean, we're talking like, where was Apple at this time? You see some of those references. So I'll get right into it because I got quite a few here. On page 7, the playing field is being leveled or flattened. So they're talking about how all these fiber optic cables were put out through the ocean all the way to India, and this was during the 2000 run up in the technology. It was like the big boom, the technology boom, where people are all excited about it. So they're just laying cable all over the place to particular countries, and then suddenly it went bust. And India got a really good deal on these fiber optic cables. The companies went out of business, and the cables were still on the ground. So the people were able to rebuy the cables at a discount price, and that brought the prices in more reasonable levels for India to take hold of. And that's why today we see Indians who have taken over a lot of operator functions, like on the phone. They have a lot of call centers, a lot of different types of support centers. We really brought them into the technology game in late 90s, early 2000s with that boom. So the playing field has gotten leveled, as in it's brought in more other countries who normally were outside of the scope, outside of the reach of our American technology, where it was at the time. Playing on page 8, the next page, playing field is leveled to super empower new groups like new countries, and also the angry, frustrated, and humiliated people. And he's touched on this quite a bit with Al Qaeda, with angry groups, extremist groups. We've not only leveled the playing field on people who can enhance and improve on technology, but it's also increased the reach out for angry groups too. They can also reach out to more people and express their ideologies with larger groups and get in touch with other people. So that's an interesting. Oh man, I don't want to lose. Maybe I should shrink this. How does this look? Let me take another look. Okay, it's nice big wording and lettering. Yeah, I don't want to lose my place. Just got to remember what page I'm on. That's all. All right, so I'm going to go down. Maybe I can separate a little. On page 15, if you are an American, you better be good at the touchy-feely service stuff, because anything that can be digitized can be sent to India, sent to China. That's Pajit's rule the phones. Yeah, I mean, China's making some great stuff. If you ever seen the DJI products, they're coming out with cameras that follow you. I mean, I could watch this. I'm gonna look at myself for just a second. Watch this. I could have a camera. I could go over here, and my camera would follow me. I go over here, and my camera would follow me. DJI is making these crazy cameras. I could walk around my computer with DJI, and the camera would follow me instead of it being fixed like it is. This is kind of boring. I have to move it. It's kind of neat. I want a camera that follows me so I can move around a little bit. But I also need the audio too. I need to work on that. But DJI, I have their drone, but they also have little roller things that like RC cars too. But yeah, anyway, I don't know why I said that. Pajit's rule of phones, you got me on a tangent. If you're an American, yes, we like they've said, DJI Osmo, that's a cool one. I mean, it's not cheap. But to have that, I mean, people are scared of these face recognition cameras. I'm excited for it because of what DJI is doing. You can have a camera that will follow you when you want to talk to the camera. That's kind of neat. I mean, I've played with the follow feature on my drone, and that's fun. I can run around and do whatever. But I was told about how America's turning into a service industry more so back in the early 2000s because of this outsourcing. There's accounting that can be outsourced, all kinds of programs that can be outsourced to India. They take over that. So then what jobs does that leave in America? We're forced to flip hamburgers for each other. You got a DJI Osmo? Man, I never really looked at your channel. I mean, really? All right, we'll take a look. What do you have on your channel? Let's see, I'll do a different, I better stop that. YouTube. Yeah, I've seen some reviews on the DJI Osmo, and it's pretty neat. There's other competing companies who are advertising, particularly on the Instagram, and that's pretty neat. Okay, you got 3 videos, and I don't see any DJI Osmo. Maybe you're using it for a different function besides your channel. Okay. Going back. Oh, I wanna. Okay, go down. Oh, that's all lower. Okay, I think I got this. All right. So that's outsourcing of technology has changed the landscape of our workforce in America. It's very interesting. Your main channel has the Osmo stuff? What's your main channel? All right, page 28. There is something, whoops, better go to, there's something unappealing about the idea of inducing other people to flatten their accents in order to compete in the flatter world. Now this is talking about Indians who are trying to change their dialect to sound more American. And they don't, the author says that's not appealing. Why not keep your own culture, your own accents within your country? The flattening of the world doesn't require you to become American. You should. The flattening of the world is allowing you to embrace your own culture and stay in your own country, because we can reach out to each other on over the internet, on the computers. On page 28, in a flat world, they can stay in India. Yes, these new types of jobs allow them to be more Indian. So, because we're able to communicate, like just the other day, I had somebody in Australia contact me in America to tell me about a homeless guy getting beat up in Britain. It's such a flat world. It happened in real time. This communication around the world. They're on complete opposite sides of the world, and so we're able to communicate and transfer information and run programs and stuff from other countries. Indians don't have to come to America to achieve the dream jobs, to achieve the American dream. The American dream can be realized in their own country. Instagram? Okay, sure. Yeah, just send the link. Why can't you send it out over the chat? On 39, this technology has flattened the military hierarchy on the ground. The days when only senior officers had the big picture are over. So the guys on the ground, the soldiers, the lower rank, can communicate with each other on, I don't know, it was a joke when I was in the military in 98, 99, more 99, they joked about whispering each other. Like get on. It was when AOL, the AOL Chat. Some soldiers joked about how they could chat with each other on the AOL and send whatever messages they wanted to. That's how they would alert each other and stuff. I wasn't exactly in that circle of buddies, but I thought it was amusing to hear. And the military is flattening out. It's becoming more horizontal instead of vertical, thanks to access to information like this with technology. Although some seniors will need to still have more access to more sensitive information than others. The technology has definitely changed the hierarchy a little bit. On page 46, as Uber blogger Glenn Reynolds likes to say, blogs have given the people a chance to stop yelling at their TV and have a say in the process. Like, I like to write comments in YouTube videos. I don't have to yell at the video. That's really nice. So there's a Uber blogger and not just a regular blogger. 48. Let's see. World gone from round to flat. Hierarchies are being challenged from below or are transforming from top-down structures into more horizontal and collaborative. That's the thing. It's this change of horizontal from vertical to horizontal they're finding, because communication is easier to do. You don't have to go through like a network to talk to somebody else. You could talk to people directly through emails. Well, this is 2005. And so emails were big. There was this before Twitter, before even YouTube got really big. I think YouTube came out at that time. But Yahoo had a pretty good chat system, and then something happened with that. There were some fairly good chat networks set up, but then that's changed now with Facebook. Facebook came out about that time. Facebook wasn't even mentioned in this book. This guy was completely like looking elsewhere for sources for his book. Facebook just came out, maybe 2003, 2004, and about towards the end when this book was written. But that's just another avenue. That's just another like internet website to talk through to people directly. So he was seeing this happening. Just he didn't mention Facebook specifically at all. You could search Facebook in the book, you won't find it. Page 51, Fall of Berlin Wall, 11/9/989, tipped the balance of power across the world towards those advocating democratic, consensual, free market-oriented governance, and away from those advocating authoritarian rule with centrally planned economies. Yes, he's saying that this is a very important date. Like technology, I mean, this is before the internet came out, but he's saying that this changed a lot because the oppressed Eastern Germans, and particularly in Berlin, the Eastern Berliners now were opened up to democracy and could freely express themselves on the internet again without reprisal. So that was an important date. I mean, that was the Ronald Reagan. I think that was during his time, and he demanded the wall get torn down, and that helped democracy. And then that led to the Soviet Union kind of experiencing a hiccup in their economy. Page 53, before 1989, you could have an Eastern policy or a Western policy, but it was hard to think about having a global policy. All right, most knowledge is learning from the other across the board. I think these are separate ideas. The global policy. See, the term globalists really is kind of new. Globalists may come from the internet. Before the internet, you didn't have globalists so much because people couldn't see what was happening in real time on the other side of the world like we can today. Globalism has seemed to have grown more powerful in their ideologies as this communication technology has improved. But you know, this author never says globalism, or he never says he's a globalist. This is 2005, so the idea is new. There wasn't exactly a label to attach to it, but he's definitely describing everything that has to do with it. Oh man, I'm out of water. Oh no, I need more water. Okay, since this is live, I'm gonna go for some water. I'll play this. Whoops, that's not it. I'll just let this drive video. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Maybe I can put that as a note. I don't want to lose my page though. Nah, I could probably do it. Just put a big space. Oh man, nope. Back in 5 minutes. And then I could put a space. Does that show up? Yeah, okay, that's going to show up. So I'm going to let that go. All right, so now I'm gonna shrink this down, change the wording. Okay, so this is globalism, teaching globalism. Yeah, I went to fight with a librarian. All right, 54. Not yet. No librarians have given me a hard time here. Common standards create a flatter, more level playing field. Common standards like the USB, making that common. I watched a guy that looked like a person that looked like a male go into the female bathroom. That was a little. I just went to get water and I see this happen. Looks like a male. In fact, when I listened and he peed, it sounded like he peed while standing up. And he went in the female's bathroom. It's a little disturbing to me. 54. Common standards create a flatter, more level playing field. The fall of the Berlin Wall enhances the free movement of best practices. All right. On 62, Netscape was a huge flattening force. They went public out of Mountain View, California, August 9th, 1995. Yeah, I've been to Mountain View. That's pretty neat. And you walk around, you see all the technology buildings and a lot of big, tall apartments to support the people working on all that technology. Yeah, I have assumed as gender. I mean, it's not too hard to make those assumptions. 68. When you give people a new way to connect with other people, they will punch through any technical barrier. They will learn new languages. People are wired to want to connect with other people, and so that's. Whoops. I'm just gonna go down. When you give, yeah. So maybe I can. They will punch through technical barriers. So that's the natural tendency to want to communicate and express yourself with other people, and people will learn. People as kids want to connect the most. Connection is so important to kids that they learn other languages a little more freely because of that age. They may learn new languages a little quicker than old people who are more set in our ways. Oh man, this is not working out great. 73 technology. Okay, so I wanna go up to there. I want to separate these ideas. When the dot-com bust came along, there was too much fiber optic cable out there. Long distance phone rates went from $2 a minute to 10 cents. That's a big drop. The telecom industry has invested itself right out of business. Yeah, there was a time where you're paying like $5 a minute to talk to somebody on the other side of the world in the 90s, and then it just became free. It's pretty amazing how that has changed. All right. Oh, that's not okay. So that's gonna tend to go up. So I got the first on 79. The first big breakthrough in workflow was a combination of PC and email. Yeah, craft services is banned. Well, no, he's not. All those accounts that he made were banned on the Cop channel. So everything. Yeah, he should be able to talk on this channel, but I mean, it's not. This channel I don't have as interesting of stuff on this channel as I do on that other one. So. The first big breakthrough, yes, it was a combination of PC and email. And I think that was probably in the 80s or something, when there's a lot more internal communication going on. So I can't just bring that down. I got to bring it down and then go up. On page 83, software companies stopped competing over who got to control the fire hydrant nozzles and focused on who could make better hoses and fire trucks to pump more water. Once a standard takes hold, people start to focus on the quality of what they are doing as opposed to how they do it. And that's the thing. I question like what today is in need of standardization still. We have the USB. That's pretty nice. All these, like it was confusing for a while. All these USBs now. I don't know if this shows. Is pretty nice. There was actually a time where this stuff was controversial. How to plug it in, how to design these connections, these plug and play connections. Finally, the USB became a standardization, and there's a few, probably other standardizations I'm not too familiar with. Maybe things that are in debate, but there was a time where just the plugins were. There's just so many varieties. I was losing track. Or like the controversy between Betamax and VHS in the 80s. Eventually, VHS became the standard way to play tapes until that technology ran itself out. So that's standardization. He talks about it. Being in a flat world can enhance standardization. So 84, once a standard is established around all the real estate processes, the broker can focus a lot more on you and not chasing documents. And that's just an example. A lot of other businesses can do that too. Work more efficiently by making things more standardized. Maybe they standardize things with unions, because there's going to probably be court cases and fights and controversies about which standard should be followed for the industry, for real estate, for burger flipping, for being a cop, for all kinds of different businesses out there, all industries. All right, let's see, 89. I skipped to 111. So 89 is a big one. Rep from Salesforce. And I think Salesforce is still in operation today. I looked at it. I signed up for the free month, but I didn't know what I could do with it. I don't really know how to sell through that. I don't really have anything to sell. Wants a new internet companies to show how services will replace software. Oh, that's right. Microsoft just wants you to buy more software. We're going from a world where companies were independent systems to a world where they became interconnected and interdependent. So Salesforce wanted to bring more of the human aspect back early on too. 2005, like Microsoft was just making a program out of everything and anything they could. Finance and doing other finance is a big one. Business operations, sales, finance, sales, human resources. Microsoft was working overdrive trying to put a software program to it. And then Salesforce wanted to scale back and said that's taking away a lot of human elements to it, I believe. You can only standardize things so much. There's a gray area between the two, so they'd go into detail about that in the book. I don't have the book with me. Okay, so 111, uploading files has an allure that you can change an application that is being used all over the world. Like Napster. You got Napster, the guy uploaded that. Well, it wasn't a file, it was a program. And everybody around the world could just start trading music illegally, of course, but there was a real convenience. And they encourage other people to do it. Some people made awesome programs, and then that encouraged other people. People build on top of the programs, and it's just it's easy to transfer all that information and build on everybody's stuff, or maybe take away or something. It's a lot easier. The Gold Card Challenge I didn't write a lot about because I knew I would remember this one. That was in Australia where they had a lot of lands. They wanted to mine for gold, and they mapped out the land, the underground. They had core samples of the underground, and they had the location of these core samples, I think, and they kind of like they mapped they put out a challenge to companies to like figure out where's the gold based on our core samples in this region. Where would the gold most likely be, so you don't have to waste time mining in some worthless mines. And that turned out to be really interesting, because the people that won this challenge, they never went out to the area to look. They just did all their business. They did all their work on the internet, on their computer programs, and then mapped everything else where they thought the gold was most likely going to be, and it was all done over the internet. And you can look this up. There's a neat video if you type in Gold Court Challenge. It's kind of recent too. 122. All right. Encyclopedia Britannica salespeople it changed the industry of I don't know, topical research or whatever. You started out with Encyclopedia Britannica, and there were salespeople that go door to door selling these books. And then I went to Microsoft Encarta, which is like a program that came with your computer in the 90s. So it was like a free thing. I wasn't too impressed with it. It was still a little bit easier to flip through a book. And then Wikipedia, which I find easier. I think Wikipedia was mentioned in this book. 120. I don't think I wrote it on my own. 125. So in 2005, growing numbers of young men would rather play a sports video game than watch the real thing on TV. And that has really grown since 2005 with Twitch TV and all the gamers on YouTube now. It is more fun to be in the game than to watch the game. That's true. Like when I played football in high school, I enjoyed playing the game, but after that, I stopped paying attention to football. I didn't care. If I couldn't play, then I didn't care about it. Companies that design their software, their systems, their websites, and their encyclopedias to encourage participation be the ones that draw the most users. So participation, like, this video, I mean, it's not really, you can't really participate in it. You want things that you can participate in. That way that it keeps your mind active. 157. Why did it go back? 157 to 143? How did I do that? Offshoring, which has been around for decades, is different from outsourcing. So offshoring is like sending your entire business to another country. Outsourcing is sending the technological software application to another business in another company. All right, so they're saying there's a difference there, and they go into examples, I believe. On 143, okay, political turmoil can unflatten China one day. This is 2005, so they seem to have advanced a little bit more. But now with Trump, this is all before Trump took power. Trump is changing that landscape again. He might be creating a little political turmoil, but I don't know if it'll lead to unflattening of China. They seem to be more stringent on how they operate. Okay, 144. businessmen who bought Chinese auto parts companies tried to importing managers to China, but it was a disaster because the country was too foreign. And I thought that was interesting how you got all these qualified, well-trained managers from America, sent them over to China and expect them to know how to operate, and they were unable to be successful because the culture was just out of their beyond their understanding of their own cultures. So there was a lot of conflict there. You can have the best experts for certain functions, but you can't just ship them anywhere. Well, this is at that time though. Maybe things have changed a little bit with the flattening of the world, the further flattening of the world now from 2005. 146. So if General Motors builds a factory offshore in Shanghai, okay, they're going to build a factory in Shanghai. It also ends up creating jobs in America by exporting a lot of goods and services to its own factory in China and benefiting from lower parts costs in China for its factories in America. See, yeah, that's the thing. I put this as interesting twist on what he believes. How he believes globalism is going to help America. He's saying he's twisting. It sounds like he's twisting his ideology enough to support his agenda for globalism, and it's questionable. Right? I forget if he uses any good examples. I think he's just kind of throwing out the ideology without examples. He uses a lot of examples for other things. But this he didn't, I don't believe he did. And it's hard to believe that bringing more jobs to China is going to bring more benefit to America. More benefit to American businessmen, but to actual average workers, that's a little harder to believe. By exporting a lot of goods and services to his own factory, been a lower costs. Yeah, there's lower costs, but China, this is also not factoring in the fact that China manipulates its currency a lot. So they're like Walmartization. It's like a Walmartization where they come in and blow away the competition by having the cheaper prices, but then once the competition's gone, they can jack up those prices and really take advantage of America. So it seems like a weak argument to me. And he probably doesn't have any good examples. He's just throwing out some ideology. And that may not even be the author's ideology. Some of these other people have said it, but I just didn't put the names. A Simco employs China to do rough finish of raw materials, and then the semi-finished. Oh, this is an example. The next page. Finished in the U.S. for camshafts. Health insurance in China is cheaper. Limited health insurance. No malpractice suits. So this is and that's the thing. A Simco could finish the products in China, okay, for camshafts. So he's saying that they're trying to make it look like there's a little cooperation going on here, but really, I mean, a Simco could bring in that operation. Why would it need to be shipped to America to do the finishing when you could do that in China? They're not at that point yet, but they could be. It's not that hard to bridge that gap, and so it's not very convincing to me that you could pull that off successfully. What is going on? Prior to the internet, the only way to learn about China was travel. You rely on the National Geographic and People's Reports and President Nixon's visit to China and how he opened up trade with them and all the old ways of learning about these other countries. Maybe the other country sends an ambassador here or something to talk about their country, but with the internet you kind of have more of a direct communication. You can learn a lot about them. You go to like TikTok, that app on TikTok. There's a lot of Asians that like to like to express themselves on TikTok, and it's interesting to see what they present. And that was TikTok's like only like I don't even know if that's a year old. 150. So we got 3 United States are better than 1. 5 would be better than 3. It is too late for protectionism for China. Its economy is totally interlinked with the developed world. Trying to delink it would cause economic and geopolitical chaos. So, the world, the major industrial nations are interlinked, and if you tried to delink, like I guess what people would argue that Trump is doing, he's trying to delink with the trade wars. It's going to cause economic and geopolitical chaos. We're experiencing total chaos right now. Let's see how that works out. All right, let me just. As opposed, you're saying China is an expert in CNC technology? All right, so the Bible is not mentioning China. What if there was internet during the Bible years? How would the Bible be written if there was internet at the time? 152. Salad fight, yeah. Professor at MIT, making stuff that's easy, supply chain, now that is really hard. So he's saying designing products. And MIT, they're making those walking robot dogs. It's amazing the things they're putting out. These walking humans, they're cyborg humans. And they're saying that it's actually the trade, learning, getting things transferred from one area to another is the hard part. Making those cyborgs that can walk on their own. That's the easy part. Getting to sending them to other places is the hard part. 153. Global optimization. It doesn't matter if you can get one part cheaper in one place. The key is total costs need to be low. So there's the whole totalitarian, the whole total cost of a product. Yeah, that'd be cool. Have robots in space stations. You don't need to rely on a lot of aspects that humans need to stay alive in a space station. But you'd need to have resources to keep the robots going. So that would completely change the space station's inventory. Okay, 154. Sarah lives by the motto that it is more profitable to incur shortages than overstock, and that to respond to shortages with lightning speed. Dell has a customer for every computer before it's manufactured. So that's pretty much having things right when people ask for it, but not having too much overstock into your inventory, because that's money sitting in your warehouse that's not doing anything. You wanna have that money moving often. So you don't want to have a large inventory. And by optimizing sales on the internet, you can do that. You can get the products to the right people faster. That's why Amazon is so successful. I don't think they probably don't really keep a huge inventory, keep a small inventory, and just get it out right away as soon as it's ordered. Walmart's role as one of the 10 forces that flatten the world is undeniable. The Walmartization of America, the Walmartization of, I don't know how far they've extended beyond America, but they've really optimized their and that has to do with sending out the products to various places. Amazon might have taken over Amazon may have over like stepped over Walmart in that efficiency, because Walmart has like stores with products that could sit on shelves for years or months or years. Amazon doesn't quite have that problem. Dead weight inventory or something. 157. The fewer natural resources your company has, the more you'll dig in yourself for innovations to survive. And I mean, a lot of people like to use Japan as an example for that, because they have very few resources, so they have to rely more on their creativity and ingenuity. It's a tough challenge for them to have to do that. Just living on an island. That's being stuck on an island with little space to travel around and to find resources. 158. So this is a person. Glass said, "I wish that I could say we were brilliant and visionary, but it was all born out of necessity." So it wasn't somebody who was just like inspired by the light. It was somebody who was struggling with a problem, and he needed to find a solution for it, or whatever. He'd experienced a lot of pain. So that's more. He's saying that's more the motivation than somebody feeling good about a certain idea and just flowing with it. It's more I need this, or I'm going to experience pain. It's a necessity, like eating or something. On 160, Rena Granovsky said, opening its sales and inventory databases to suppliers is what made Walmart the powerhouse. Okay, while its competitors guarded sales information, Walmart approached its suppliers as if they were partners, not enemies. It's hard to really say exactly how that works, but what she's describing is really a nice way to do. Sounds like a nice way to do business. Like you could say maybe Kmart closed off they guarded their sales information from their suppliers, so they went bust. Herberger's, Woolworths, so many. They may have guarded their sales information. There's a lot of secretive businesses. There's a lot of secretive governments out there, and they don't do themselves any favor by operating in such a secretive way. People don't trust that. How can you trust people who act so secretive? Businesses, governments. RFID tags help in grocery section to balance temps. I'm not too sure what that RFID tag is, but I'm sure that's improved now. You can balance temps from your phone, your cell phone now. 162. Walmart can adjust to a hurricane mix of products. Large Hispanic areas don't use banks, so Walmart offered money services. So those are two different ideas. So if there's a hurricane, Walmart sees that people buy more beer and rafts. So there's a change, a quick spark in the change in the buying habits of what? Okay, buying habits of emergency services. Large Hispanic areas, yeah, that's interesting. The Mexicans don't use banks quite as much as white people, quite as much as Americans. So Walmart offered the money services, and that has really become popular. I don't see just Mexicans standing in line at the money service. It's all kinds of people. That became pretty popular with everybody. But they found that it probably started out in the large Hispanic areas, and then expanded from there as a successful operation within Walmart. With manufacturing gone out of the country, one day we'll all be selling hamburgers to each other. I don't think the author said that, but that's the service industry that's expanded. Although Trump is changing that, so this is 2005 to today. 167. FedEx and UPS should be considered flatteners. Yes, they have improved their delivery system a lot, and improved communication between businesses, and you could track your package, and it's a lot of good flattening effects that are happening there. Shalom Alaha. All right. Let's see. I was on 169. Once the world went flat, the small could act big. Small companies could suddenly see around the world. So you could watch the business dealings going on the other side of the world with a particular company. One that's going to open up its be more open about how they conduct their business, at least. It's not everybody's open about it because they got to keep their trade secrets. But small companies could reach around the world too and sell to other countries. If they got a product that's desirable, sell your product around the world. All right, 170. Nike would rather spend its cash and energy designing better tennis shoes, not supply chains, because that's the hard part, supply chains. So if you want to get in a tough business, that's supply chains are it. When the small can act big, it levels a competitive playing field even more. Yep, they can have competitors to Nike designing shoes and selling on the same levels in some way, depending on the popularity. Search is so highly personal that searching is empowering for humans like nothing else. Eric Schmidt from Google, he said, and that's the thing. People are giving him there's a lot of controversy with him, talking about his political affiliations, leaning towards Democrats, and how that's bad for how that creates bias in our search because he's influencing how we search. But still, that search was never in existence before Eric Schmidt, before Google. We didn't have search that was so helpful for finding some things. It's been really nice to have that. I mean, I remember life before the internet, before easily being able to search things. But there should be. It's reasonable to be concerned about how they can manipulate our search results when we're looking through Google. But it really has been empowering. This is from 2005 or so. In late 2004, Google began a service whereby if you were walking around Bethesda, Maryland, this is funny. All right, I'm going to just separate it here for a second. This was me. If I wanted to travel like I do today, back in 2004, if I was like wandering around like a homeless bum, library to library, and I search on Google Maps every day. When I'm traveling and not fighting the law. This is how I would have had to conduct myself in my travels. If I wanted to use Google. In the late 2004, Google just began a service. If you're walking around this city in Maryland, which I'd like to visit, and are in the mood for sushi, you can just send Google an SMS message on your cell phone that says sushi, and then the zip code, and it will send you back a text messages of choices. Lord only knows where this will go. And that's amazing because you can look that stuff up all in Google. All that information I have in my head is like a computer the judge will hate. No, it's not about being smarter. It's about knowing the right thing at the right time. That's why I'm such a failure, because I know the right things at the wrong time, or I know the wrong things at the right time. It's being able to align the right things at the right time. And that's, you gotta bring it all. You bring all your information in to the right people at the right place. But this is interesting. I find this change just from 2004. and that's now all you can do all of it on the maps. You can search all that on the maps, the sushi stuff. Google just said on Wednesday that it has acquired Keyhole. This is something I actually wanted to look at. Oh, my video's done. All right, I'm gonna go to the website. I don't know how long ago was the video done. All right, maybe I'll replay it or something. I'm gonna go to that right here. All right, and then I want to just look up Google Keyhole. Maybe Google buys Keyhole. Let's see what information. Software search giant Google said Wednesday it acquired Keyhole, and this is 2004. What's happened since then? They've just probably been dissolved or absorbed. No, the Keyhole probably has been absorbed into Google, and there's just nothing left. Yeah, that's all the news. Several sources. Oh, the CIA helped sell a mapping startup to Google. They helped sell. That's very believable. They have been in some sales businesses. Can't sell weapons so much like the 80s, so they're selling programs. All right, so I'm going to go back and hit another video. How about drive to Bellin? All right, shrink that down, sort of. Nope, come on. All right, 186, they bought Keyhole in 2004. That's no longer a company. 195, the ability to access internet, email, or any business files anytime, anywhere using a cell phone, Palm Pilot, or some other personal device is in more demand. And this is before Apple made their announcements for their iPhones. I think they talked about the latest iPod, but not any iPhones. So this is exciting. These are exciting times in 2005 and before 2005. And Palm Pilot. People don't refer to Palm Pilot anymore. But yeah, that's internet, email, or any business files. So it's just kind of a generalized, website. There was no apps back then. Barrel roll. In the early days of computing, on 196, you worked in the office. And that's interesting. I mean, the only way you could use a computer is in the office. There's no mobile technology. And they're appreciating this in 2005 as a new thing. We're kind of taking it for granted today. In 197, so this is a mobile phone and video camera, but it has also evolved to an extent that it functions similar to a PC. Well, today, that was in 2005. Today, the mobile phone is the PC. It's the primary. It's got enough power in it to do a lot. So, mobile phones. This is a mobile and video camera. They had video cameras in their mobile phones in 2004, 2005. I had a cell phone for a brief time in 2001, 2002, 2003, I think. Okay, a couple of years. I never had a phone as a flip phone, a Motorola flip phone that never really had a camera though. And definitely, I couldn't use any internet. It was all just strictly talking on the phone. 198, that's a big one. So we believe that, let me just see what happens. What if I expanded this? What would happen on this? Oh, okay, I see. That's fine. We believe that the mobile phone will become the essential controller of a person's life. For example, in the medical field, It will be your authentication system, and you can examine your medical records. And to make payments, you will have to hold a mobile phone. You will not be able to lead a life without a mobile phone. And it will control things at home too. We believe that we need to expand the range of machines that can be controlled by mobile phones. They were on to that a long time ago. There's been some growing pains with that. It's like there's some things you could control, but it just wasn't very desirable. But it's interesting how that has evolved. The smart home, let me see here. The smart homes. Okay, that's probably good. You had a beeper? I never owned a beeper, but yeah, I've known people that did. I think beepers are still in use today with the doctors. Okay. Let's see. We have gone from a vertical, is that control? Yeah. 208. We have gone from a vertical chain of command for value creation to a much more horizontal chain of command for value creation, explains the presidential hopeful for 2016, Carly Fiorani. That's true. I mean, that's a big theme in this book, going from vertical to horizontal, and in communications and business dealings, in the military, a lot of operations have gone more horizontal. That top-down business where one person controls it all, and their directives are they go up or down. That's less popular today. 210. It takes an adjustment to move from vertical to horizontal thinking, because vertical thinking often requires you to start by asking who controls what system. That's the vertical. And in horizontal, there's that whoever may control would have maybe less control. Yeah. The bozos keep tracking me with a beeper. I think the bozos might be checking out my channel. I don't know. They keep tracking me pretty good on there. I want to make another video talking about police impersonation in the next few days on the Cop channel. I think that'd be an interesting topic to go over. I really haven't looked into it. I'll just do an open investigation live on stream. 211. Because of all of us are smarter than one of us. Keep putting several heads together. And that's the thing. That's why I like doing open investigations, because me and my public defender, that's it. And then an investigator. That's not much on my defense team. So that's why I kind of have to bring my arguments to YouTube, because then I could bring more heads into it by trying to get people interested in my problem, my legal problem, and then I get suggestions that sometimes are helpful. Like yesterday, I didn't even think about it, but somebody asked, what is the police oath for Hayden, Colorado? And it's like, I never really thought of that. So then I emailed the police chief, who's probably not going to respond to me anyway. But it's like, that makes me wonder, what is the police oath? That's something I'm curious about. Okay, so more heads. In a way, this is globalism for you. You got to be guarded about it. There's some bad ideas out there. But, I mean, you can kind of weed through the bad ideas for good ideas, too. It's still helpful in general. 215. Many Chinese just skipped over the landline phase. To put it another way, many Chinese just went from no phones to cell phones in the space of a decade. That's interesting. That's them realizing the American dream, but not in the same way that Americans have. We've talked on landlines the whole time in that American dream phase, and then we switch, and then we got all these cables running everywhere, and China skipped over having to bury cables and phone lines and just went right to the cell phone. because they were living as a third world country for so long, and then at the last minute changed over. So it's kind of an interesting transition they experience. All right, same page. Global trade and economic organizations like IMF, G8, World Trade Organization will become less relevant with a flattened world. All right, because people could talk more on a horizontal level, and we're currently talking on a more of a horizontal level than a vertical level. So we don't need to go through all these leaders to make decisions. We can use group votes through, I don't know, Twitter. Do a survey on Twitter or something. That's just a little bit different. We don't have to rely on, because I mean, even though there's people at the top with these big organizations, that doesn't mean that they're any more informed. Better. That doesn't mean that they're better informed than us. We're all informed in the same way, just like the President Trump says he's getting the information like on the same day, in almost the same way, watching the news as everybody else. When I don't know, mass shooting happens or something weird happens. 217. There were actually books and seminars in India devoted entirely to the subject of how to prepare for a work visa interview at the U.S. Embassy. And I go into a little bit, I have a couple other quotes, I think down a little bit, where they talk more about this, where this is the flattening of the world. Indians viewed America as the pinnacle for making it in the economy, but they're saying there were actually books and seminars, but that's not as important now because India is able to live a higher quality of life in their own country and don't have to escape to America. And in fact, some may come to America and then want to return to India for a little better life in some ways, depending on the situation. It's becoming more even. The playing field has become a little bit more even between our countries. Today, the most fierce competitors who get an IT job in India no longer say, well, I have to stay here. Instead, it's, do I get a chance to stay here? Because, yeah, their quality of life has improved because of all the fiber optic cables. And, well, we got a lot of wireless technology as well that'll help improve their lives. So they don't have to come to America for the better technology. Every perceived dollar or opportunity that is lost today from outsourcing is actually going to come back to you times 10 once the market here is unleashed. So outsourcing to India, it's going to come back to America once our market is unleashed. Now, I don't know if he put an example. He might have. But it's so hard to believe. We improve India's life, and it's going to come back to us times 10. I don't know about that. I think they would probably want to hold on to that wealth and be a little greedy about it. I don't think he's factoring greed in enough. Greed makes people do some crazy things. People like me have learned a lot from Americans. We have learned to become a little more aggressive in the way we market ourselves, which is something we would not have given our typical British background. So in America, you have to really promote yourself hard if you want to get ahead and in front of other people, get chosen, get your products sold, and whatever your ideas communicated, you got to sell it a little harder. Britain might be a little more regulated with that. That's the free speech sales pitches. You don't get free speech sales pitches in other countries quite as well. If you are seeing all this energy coming out of Indians, it's because we have been underdogs and we have that drive to kind of achieve and get there. India is going to be a superpower and we are going to rule. That's a little concerning. I don't know about wanting to just continue to give India power. They haven't seemed to have been people to abuse their power. They seem really well balanced in general. And it's amazing how some cultures maintain their balance over others. Me take a bath? 224. The Chinese use chat rooms to strategize how to get visas to work in the U.S. Sometimes a U.S. diplomat will hear the same reason repeatedly, and it starts to sound a little suspicious. When a story of determination wins a Chinese person their visa, suddenly Suddenly, I thought I just had, maybe, when is it China? Suddenly, okay, the next day, that same story may be heard over and over again by the visa officials from many other students. So the Chinese tell each other, hey, this story worked to get me that visa to go work in America. So the other students decide to use that same argument. So then they got to be creative and make up another type of argument to be convincing. Every day the visa office is lined up with Chinese people trying to get into America, try to get that visa. And they have to have a good story to sell. Something that'll benefit America. We don't want to just let people illegally cross the border from Mexico in and not really say what they have to offer. You kind of hope that they're going to be productive, and then a lot of times hoping isn't exactly the best way to approach the situation. You want to hear what they have to say. 225. Chinese leisure tourists will alter the whole world tourism industry. The book Harvard Girl. It's called Harvard Girl by Yiting. Let me check something quick. Okay, all right. Okay, Harvard Girl by Yiting. And that's, I don't know, how old is that? I could look it up. I haven't. Let's just say it's before 2004. Yiting Liu became a bestseller in China. It offers scientifically proven methods on how to get your Chinese kid into Harvard, which has been debunked. Scientifically proven methods. They're just saying that, and they tried to make it sound as scientific as they could. And maybe there were some interesting, good suggestions, but to call it scientific, that's just a sales pitch right there. All right. Let's see. 234. Societies will change as the world starts to move from a primarily vertical, once again, vertical command and control system for creating value to more horizontal connect and collaborate. So that's pretty neat. Vertical command and control, which is pre-internet, and then today, horizontal connect and collaborate. It's definitely an interesting morphing of our lifestyles to change that still some people are having difficulty with. The old timers, the young people are embracing it, and the old timers are having a difficulty making the change. Let's see, 236. Developments in information tech are enabling companies to squeeze out all the inefficiencies and friction from their markets and business operations. So they're able to collaborate on certain functions of their business, take out the inefficient processes and things that slow it down. So that's information tech, and that's over a decade. It's almost like 15 years ago that they're talking about this. So we're seeing the results of that today. And there's some things that some functions of programs that were offered back then that just are not used today, that were just a waste. 237. Our national boundaries a source of friction we should want to preserve, or even can preserve in a flat world. I think Trump is proving that we need boundaries. All right. Our national boundaries a source of friction. Has he created friction? I don't know. It's or even preserve. I don't know. Has putting up walls like what Trump is doing, does that make the world less flat? You can't be a country without borders, like he says. So, and does that unflatten the world too, and start creating more of a vertical system again, bring back the vertical, and step away from the horizontal way of operation. I'm not sure. Got to give it more time. 243. The interests and needs. What is a CERN thing? Quantum computers can simulate anything a collider can. Yeah. What is the latest? What are the latest supercomputers like? I like to play a nice video game on them. 243. The interests and needs of companies align less and less with the countries they are in. Less and less. Oh yes, that's true. Okay. As General Motors goes, so goes America. As Dell goes, so goes Malaysia, Taiwan, India, Chinese, Ireland, India. So this is the idea right here, separated on 243 that I found interesting. Oh, where's my... They're saying that it's companies that are becoming practically countries in themselves. They have that much influence to practically control the company. And if this company leaves a certain country, the country could fall apart because it built its... Countries don't exactly want to build their whole economics around a company. But that's kind of what happens with some industries. Some major industries, so you gotta balance that out. Yeah, it's good to embrace some major companies, but you could have a Detroit situation where the auto industry goes bust, and then your whole city goes bust on top of that. Corporate America has done very well, and there is nothing wrong with that, but it has done well by aligning itself with the flat world. So they're talking about the supply chains and being able to get their products around. These corporations would not be so successful if there wasn't the internet to be able to communicate and advertise and collaborate and all of that good stuff. Oh, I just lost my page. Okay, and yeah, it's interesting how that works. The whole international business situation, the globalist international business, the fair exchange, the dealings with that, like how there's so many of them. Like I think there's a major Indian company called Wipro. Maybe I could search that quick. There's a lot of, the video stopped. All right, I'm going to go back on that one. I got others. Let's start this up. And I'll let that go. I'll go Wipro. I think that's an Indian company that's an outsourced company from America to India. Yeah, Wipro.com. Whoops. There was a description on the right. Yeah, it's a limited Indian multinational company, information technology, consulting, business process services, headquartered Bangalore, Karnataka, India. So they're a big Indian business. That's like as powerful as certain countries, I would think. They could be considered as powerful as small countries. All right. Can I just... Okay. 257. let's face it, Republican cultural conservatives have much more in common with the steelworkers of Youngstown. So that's kind of stepping away from globalism and trying to support the local business, trying to call your country a country, trying to support your country, fight for your country and not for globalism, somebody on the other side of the world. Globalism's so complicated, and it's almost, to me, it almost seems worse than communism. It's on that level, at least, because there's people who really could take advantage of globalism in sinister ways, and it's hard to be a watchdog over those activities, especially when they can maintain good secrecy when they support that globalism. I don't know. It's difficult. I would veer away from globalism and just embrace the flat world with some skepticism, but not all out embrace globalism. You got to have some borders, some protection. 262. I struggled over what. Let me just check something quick here. Okay. I seem to have covered up. I know what I did. Okay. I'm gonna go down. In fact, I can. Okay. Go. There we go. Okay. All right. How's that look? Okay. There we go. I'm driving. Coos Bay, Oregon. Yeah. 262. I struggled over what to make of losing an American job to foreign competition or to tech innovation. I wouldn't want to lose mine, but more American individuals will be better off if we don't erect barriers, to outsourcing, supply chaining, and offshoring than if we do. So, I forget who said that, but that's embracing globalism. And he says it's better to lean towards globalism than to isolationism or something. But I mean, just because the technology is better doesn't mean that we need to be we need to knock down barriers. Getting the electronical connections is great, but also knocking down privacy barriers for certain, like, trade secrets, supply chaining, outsources. I mean, Walmart has been a model company for showing that you can show some trade practices and show your sales openly to the distributors and that helps make you a successful company by being so open. But you got to be guarded too in some ways. It's definitely a give and take. Let's see. All right, we're on 264. Let me illustrate competition between U.S. and China. Imagine that there are only two countries in the world, America and China. Okay, I don't like this already. He's just... Okay, I'll continue though. And imagine that the American company has only 100 people. Of those 100, 80 are most of Americans are well-educated knowledge workers. That's already a really strong assumption. And then the minority are the stupid ones, low-skilled, stupid workers. Now imagine that the world goes flat and America enters into a free trade with China. China has a lot more people. They got 1,000, we got 100, but it's less developed, so there's more stupid workers, a lot of stupid workers, and there's only 80 out of 1,000 people are well educated. 920 low-skilled workers. That's such a small percentage. Out of that, I think it's 1,000. It has 920. Before America entered into its free trade agreement, with China, there were only 80 knowledge workers in its world. Now there are 160. Whoa! Because China had those 80 and we had those 80, so we just simply combined them. No, assuming that our cultures can meld together effectively. We could just combine all those knowledge workers. They all get together, speak the same language. The American knowledge workers feel like they have more competition. Like they have, yeah, so we have to work harder because we got the Chinese now involved in competing for certain positions of knowledge, for knowledge working. But if you look at the prize they're going after, it is now a much expanded, more complex market. It went from a market of 100 people to a market of 1,100, because China is that big. 100 Americans, 1,000 Chinese. That's a fair comparison for the size of the countries. So it would be a win-win for both American and Chinese knowledge workers. So a win-win. That's his conclusion. That's a win-win. The cultures could easily meld together, and the competition will be fair. All of that. 268. Hey, if horses could have voted, there would have never been cars. So that's an interesting point. Certain cultures just could not get that foothold in the politics. 277. Girls, when I was growing up, my parents used to say to me, "Tom, finish your dinner. People in China and India are starving." My advice to you is, girls, finish your homework, not your meal. People in China and India are starving for your jobs. And in a flat world, they can have them. So what's the fear there? They're starving for your jobs, but that's okay, because it's a flat world. They can take them. There's no such thing as an American job. In the flat world, there is no such thing as an American job. Well, American jobs seem to have been turned to service work, and then we're not offshoring. Offshoring is sending the whole business over to another country. We're outsourcing, which sends applications, the software applications that can be digitized over to other countries. So there's a little difference there. 278. In a flat world, everyone should want to be an untouchable. Let me just look at something here. It's a little respect for human rights. Yeah, China respects human rights. I appreciate some values in Chinese heritage that come out of China, especially with acupuncture and Chinese face reading. They're very maybe China isn't that big into human rights then. Well, either way, a lot of good ideas have come out of those countries. I respect their disciplines, their knowledge base. 278. In a flat world, everyone should want to be an untouchable. People whose jobs an untouchable is somebody who's got a job that cannot be outsourced. Most jobs are not lost to outsourcing to India or China. Most are outsourced to the past. Okay. Digitized and automated. So they're saying, like, working as a cashier, that's a job of the past. Those cashiers are now replaced with self-checkouts at Walmart or, I don't know, Safeway or something. Those are jobs of the past. So that's okay that those get outsourced, because they're old jobs anyway. So untouchables, they go into more detail here, fall into 3 categories. Specialization, and these are like celebrity stuff. In this first one, at least, they're saying, if you're a celebrity, how can you be replaced? You're special in your own right, like Michael Jordan or a brain surgeon. Then the 2, localized or anchored, job done in specific location. Well, that's for your contractors who are building houses or buildings or putting in wiring or plumbing. They do that work locally, so you can't really replace them. They're pretty much untouchable. That's kind of service work, construction, contracting work. That can't be outsourced to India. Formerly middle class, assembly line to data entry. There's some. This is kind of a gray area. He went into a lot more detail with this. So there's some middle class jobs that cannot be really outsourced or replaced. America will never lose certain jobs. All right, 285. It is more important to be able to explain something to someone else than to sit down and do the work yourself. So you're talking about being a manager, I think, and knowing how to get the troops, knowing how to get the workers motivated or knowledgeable to do the task, as opposed to just doing it yourself. 302. In the future, how we educate our children will prove to be more important than how much we educate. So it's quality over volume. And people talk about getting away from the factory type of education, the 9 to 5, just punch in, punch out, work on the assembly line or whatever type of factory mind frame that the schools have put us in, and maybe gear it more towards a flat world in some way that invites more collaboration on a horizontal level as opposed to the vertical system that we've had for many, many years. 304. Nobody works harder at learning than a curious kid. Yep, curious kids learn other languages a little bit faster than older adults. The curious kids have more of an open minds because they don't have many memories. Oh yeah, people definitely want to talk to real receptionists on the phone. And I'd say particularly ones with American accents too. That's why Indians did work on their accents to try to sound more American. Yeah, they want to improve that human touch. 308. Now that foreigners can do left brain work, we in the U.S. must do right brain work better. Better, harder, faster, stronger. If we want to compete, we got to improve ourselves because all these hungry countries are trying to take our homework. They're trying to do our homework for us and look better. 311. Georgia Tech, an engineering school, started recruiting more students that played musical instruments, sang in chorus, or played on a team. This brought in more students who also had other interests, which changed the student culture. So it became more entertaining and enriching, an enriching college atmosphere when Georgia Tech brought in more musically inclined, musically gifted engineers. Because if you have an engineering school without those, with students who have no creative outlets, it can be a very boring school. So they improve that, and this is like a success story in that regard. You can't teach someone to be curious. Curiosity, apparently from this book, I would say, from what this book says, curiosity comes out of a necessity. People have pain, and they're curious, how can I get rid of this pain? So curiosity might be more stimulated out of necessity than just genuine, oh, I'm curious about this looks neat type of thing. 312. Georgia Tech doubled the size of their bands. People who played instruments or are part of the band have more social skills. That's interesting. I should have played. Well, you need money to afford the musical instrument from the start. So already it leaned towards people who had the finances to afford that. 320. No low trust society will ever produce sustained innovation. Okay, I think we're starting to get into the Arabic, the Islamic section, because this is definitely an introduction to culture, to the Arabic, to the Islamic culture. They don't trust anybody, especially, and then they attack each other with suicidal vests and all that. There's a lot. He talks about a lot with these terrorists. And he's even though he's kind of saying that they're bad people, we're supposed to embrace them. 324. Today you have an American generation that relies almost entirely on athleticism and almost not at all on basketball skills. Feinstein, it might have been a coach or something. We want fit, strong, healthy people. That's great. But the skills, the teamwork, that's like, you look at how the Hmongs, or not the Hmongs, the Hmongs, that north area north of China, they took over everything. Genghis Khan and his band of roamers. It's like they work together. It's not just like the British knights in armor, the knights in armor who get strong and whatever athletic, but they fight individually. But individuals cannot be as successful as groups who work on their skills and have better interactions. Oh, okay, Sunflower, and you changed your name, Sunflower Sky. 325. Let's see. The members of the first generation are nose to the grindstone innovators or entrepreneurs, innovators. All right, the members of the first generation. The second generation holds it all together. Then their kids come along and get fat, dumb, and lazy and slowly squander it all. And that's describing America. That's going from the greatest generation, from the World War II era, and then the second generation, the hippie generation of the 60s, and now me. I got fat, dumb, and lazy after all their successes. I've just squandered it away. I'm Generation X. 327. Well, you want some compliancy. You want children to listen to you, to do what they're told in some respects. Don't play out in traffic type of thing. You don't want them curious about playing in traffic. 327. The space race was really a science race. Yep. They improved a lot of their knowledge on a lot of scientific applications. 332. The simultaneous flattening and wiring of the world has made it much easier for foreigners to innovate without having to emigrate. So that's interesting. There was a time when they felt they had to go to a certain area. But I mean, travel is pretty nice. You want to be able to get out and explore new areas. So it's no matter how flat the technology gets, traveling still is very useful to help inspiration. Being stuck in an area is especially depending on what it's like, can be very very discouraging. Oh yeah, Hindu families in America or Hindu families in India? There's different influences there. American influence might encourage Indian children to rebel more. 344. The ideal country in a flat world is the one with no natural resources. So the ideal country, because countries with no natural resources tend to dig inside themselves. And there was another quote similar to that. That they talked about somebody with low resources. They find their strength from inside themselves. The necessity. Okay, 351. Young Chinese, Indians, and Poles are not racing us to the bottom. They are racing us Us to the top. Okay. So these are the really successful, and I think I skipped over the Islamic part. I didn't take too many quotes from the Islamic sections of the book, because it's kind of depressing to read about their viewpoints on things. How we're supposed to embrace these people who want to kill us. It's really discouraging. We're supposed to embrace. Will I make a torso toaster? I have learned how to crochet, and I've made a hat, wrist warmers, and ankle warmers, and I'm working on something for my neck. And these are just for the fall, and I'm going to make bigger ones for the winter. So I'm kind of veering away from the sewing of winter clothes and working on crochet. Pretty much, crochet is just taking yarn and doing a bunch of slip knots. You just make a bunch of slip knots with yarn, and then you got something. It's kind of neat. It's kind of fun to play with. 351. All right, so I read that. 358. We will need a stronger and more supportive immigration system if we want to hire the people who want to stay here. See, that's the thing. Stronger, harder, better, faster. Putting up a wall, oh my goodness, Trump is a demon for doing that. Instead we gotta focus on being stronger, harder, better, faster, and supportive for immigration. But a wall, oh, that's going too far. I think the wall is a part of being that. But a lot of people disagree. That's just unfortunate. There's some things that people it may not look nice, but if it's effective, it's like you could probably use other examples for that. It may not look nice, but it's effective. So how do you satisfy the dissenters? 361. The main challenge to America today is from those practicing extreme capitalism. Okay, extreme capitalism. That's like making their whole country business, and then these countries are running the businesses. And I don't know how South Korea is doing that, but China, well, I don't know how India is doing that either, really. They're calling it, okay, there's more explanation there. I'm just grazing over. Yeah, the walls to keep us in. I was afraid to walk into Mexico because I was afraid I wouldn't get back into America. I don't have a passport, so I would have been stuck in Mexico if I went in. You can easily walk into Mexico. Getting back is the hard part. This is just 364. This is just an intuition, but the flattening of the world is going to be hugely disruptive to both traditional and developed societies. And I thank them for that. I love that disruption, especially me being a poor person. I need that disruption. The weak will... Oh, wait. Well, okay, I'll fall a little further behind. Well, it's entertaining to watch, at least. The traditional will feel the force of modernization much more profoundly. Yep. The old rich will maybe lose a lot of money, the old rich. Then you have a lot of new rich, like Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, he wasn't always rich. He's a new rich person, and he's challenging the old rich societies. And there's plenty of other examples besides him. Just all these people who own Bitcoins, challenging the old rich. The new will get turned into old quicker. Oh yeah, and then they'll cycle through. The developed will be challenged by the underdeveloped much more profoundly. Yeah, with a flat world. I worry because so much political stability is built on economic stability. Yeah, courtrooms are definitely run in a very economic way. And economic stability is not going to be a feature of the flat world. Yeah, relying on economic stability the way it is right now may not be very effective. May not be very reliable, because there's a lot of change even still happening today. From 2005, we could see what life is like today, back in 2005, and know what's going to happen. That'd be a really good advantage. Okay, the job on the same page. The job of government and politicians in such a flattening world is more important than ever. The job of governments. Oh yeah, it's okay. Here we are. He straight up says, embrace globalization. We need politicians to embrace globalization. All globalization? That's it's a little much. That's why this guy, I'm not too impressed with Thomas Friedman. I'm not too impressed with this guy. I mean, he wrote a book with some interesting points, but towards the end you see, and he's even saying, like I said, with terrorists, even though they're blowing us up, we still should be embracing globalization. Those are just small hiccups in the advancement of our society. The job of government. So he wants politicians in who are globalists. Democrats have totally embraced globalization. So, there's a limit to globalization. On the computer, the technological aspect of globalization, I'm all for. Communication, having a horizontal communication. But to tear down barriers, just because the technology can get through on wires doesn't mean that we need to tear down our walls because the wires can transmit information. 365. You talk to the leaders in China, and they are all the engineers. Oh, I quoted this on my COP channel. You talk to the leaders in China, and they are all engineers, and they get what is going on immediately. The Americans don't, because they're all lawyers. The Chinese have risk-taking down, hard work down, education, and when you meet with the Chinese politicians, they're all scientists and engineers. You can have a numeric discussion with them. You are never discussing, give me a one-liner to embarrass my political rivals with. Oh yeah, and then I wrote down, okay, that was the quote. So Bill Gates he talks favorably about the Chinese engineers, how they focus on engineering and not us trying to kill us trying to embarrass each other. All right. The 366. Transformation of an enterprise begins with a sense of crisis and urgency. So this is the third time he said the same statement in a different way. It's pretty much saying you become curious out of necessity. You change out of necessity, not just because you're inspired. It has to be more of a necessity. Getting uncomfortable. Being hurt, feeling pain, it being a necessity. 367. Instead of IBM giving you a guarantee that you will be employed, you had to guarantee that you could stay employable. Okay, so that's the jobs. How they can't guarantee you a lifetime employment and then a pension afterward. You're jumping from job to job. 377. The winners could compensate the losers. So you're saying if you win, I got to get out of here soon. I got to get out of here by 1. Compensate. So they're saying even if you lose, you win a little bit or something. In the flat world, in 379, why be compassionate at all? Why keep any fat, friction, or barriers? Let me put it as bluntly as I can. If you are not a compassionate flatist, like a compassionate cop. Cops love using that word compassion. If you are just a letter-rip free market flatist, you are not only cruel, you are a fool. So compassion is the big word with a lot of organizations, especially the organizations that can harm you. They have to use compassion. The only way to be a flat list is to be a compassionate flat. The only way to be a cop is to be a compassionate cop. They're obviously saying that people believe this hurts if you're a flattist, so you got to throw in that compassion aspect. It's propaganda. This book, there's a lot of propaganda. He hasn't exactly inspired me. He may have influenced me in some respects, but he's definitely not inspired me. 381. Gobbling up biodiversity around the planet. None are more powerful than farmers. Oh yeah, the farmers eat up a lot of the planet. It is not that they are intending to be harmful. It is in the nature of what they do. So there's more in that section. I just kind of took that quote. I don't want to take it too much out of context. 382 twice? It's a huge opportunity for McDonald's to improve its global brand by acting as a good global citizen. So they go into more detail about McDonald's and how it stops wars. As a compassionate cop, I would like to see a label on every electronics good stating high standards. Oh, I summarized what he said there. So he's pretty much saying that if you're going to make electronics, you got to show that you're not hurting the planet. And so you show compassion by showing how you're not hurting the planet. So as a cop, you show that you're compassionate by showing that you're not shooting your victim. 383. Voices can use the internet to embarrass global corporations into compliance. So they're saying that activist groups can influence global corporations who are hurting the planet, fishing for too many whales, burning the rainforest down too much, or generating too many coal-fired plants or something. You just embarrass them a little bit, and then that'll make them change. Because sociopaths really have issues with embarrassment. 385. It's the job of parents to adapt their kids to a flat world. Yep, that goes back to that previous quote where educating your kids in the right ways. Parents educating their kids in the right ways for the new culture, the new lifestyles of today with the technology the way it is. 388. America needs a leader to give something up, not just get something more, and to sacrifice for a great national cause in the future rather than live for today. So leaders need to know how to negotiate, find the middle ground on negotiations. 389. On October 24th, 2005, Time magazine ran a cover story about Apple's latest invention. The cover shows Jobs holding up the newest Apple iPod, the one that plays videos as well as music. Wow, that's so cool. I can't wait to see that. 398. Communist countries like China, Russia, Mexico, Brazil sell in wholesale by what their political leaders ordain. Okay, so that's the government controlling the companies. These state-controlled companies make choices without really ever asking the people. They compete in deregulated financial markets. Currency adjustment, yeah, that's what China does. Currency manipulation or adjustments, foreign investments, low tariffs. So that's the communist countries trying to do too much with business, telling people what they should buy instead of listening to what the people want to buy. 399. Economic growth and trade remain the best anti-poverty program in the world, but it can only grow so much. You gotta like work with the resources. The resources are limited. Okay. 408. Germany and France play defense. The more they try to protect every old job, the fewer new ones they attract. And then in contrast, the next page, they talk about Ireland's. It kind of opens up for Ireland. Ireland's story underscores the fact that capital does not just move around the world looking for the cheapest labor. If it did, all the jobs would be in Haiti. So all the cheapest jobs, if all the cheapest labor, if companies only went to the cheapest countries of the cheapest labor, they'd all be in Haiti and Bangladesh. Bangladesh ain't too bad, though. The people are pretty good. From what I've seen, the people are pretty good from that area. But I haven't been in the country. It is looking for the most productive labor at cheapest price. So Ireland isn't exactly the cheapest labor, but they're a good balance. Culture matters. The gap between cultures that have the will, the way, and the focus to quickly adopt new tools and apply them, and those that do not will matter more. The differences between the two will become amplified. So you always got to be a good working culture, a culture that's welcoming, that's embracing for companies, is the type of culture that's willing to change the way they do things and adopt new tools. Islamic empires, the Muslim areas are really. I mean, Trump. I totally agree that Trump made a great decision, making sure that nobody was allowed to move to America from there, because they really. Okay, what do they say here? One of the greatest virtues a country can have is a culture of tolerance. Increase the level of trust in any group, company, or society, and only good things will happen. Well, that's not happening in the Islamic cultures. So they're holding on to. I think I have more on that later. They hold on to their traditions, and they want to just fight each other, and it's really a disaster. Some countries, such as South Korea and Taiwan, seem to be able to focus their energies on the priority of economic development, and others, such as Egypt or Syria, get distracted by ideology and local feuds. So it's really an interesting contrast. South Korea's, I got a Samsung 9. It's really nice. It hasn't really, well, there's a couple of issues with it, but they make some nice products out of South Korea. They really got things together. If you go to TikTok and you look at the South Koreans' videos that they put out, little dance videos, it's really interesting. It's really neat to watch. They love to dabble in a lot of things and perfect operations. 418. It is very difficult for Mexico to compete with the Chinese, except with the high value added industries, where we should be competing. The service areas, we are hit by the Indians with their back offices and call centers. So Mexico's got a bunch of excuses why they can't compete with China or India. 419, a Mexican president who wants to make changes has to aggregate so many more interest groups. So there's apparently a wide variety of interest groups in Mexico, and to get them to work together is like herding cats. India and China, okay, this is a separate idea, but jump into it. India and China each have more than 50,000 students studying in the U.S. Mexico has 10,000. So that's a big difference in students that come to the U.S. to study between just the three countries. Mexico just has got issues. There's more violence in Chicago than any Islamic neighborhood? Really? Man, you hear about suicidal people with the vests and blowing up 50 people at one in a shopping center. You don't hear about people blowing themselves up in Chicago. 425, the phrase "just in the last couple of years" has been used a lot. So that's interesting. In 2005, they're saying that because the technology just keeps changing and evolving and improving. Just in the last couple of years. It's like you could say that for TikTok. You could say that for maybe Instagram. This program has only been out just in the last couple of years. It's interesting how things have been changing. Rule number 3 on 436, and the big shall act small. And that was said before too. It's been repeated. One way the big companies learn to flourish in a flat world is by learning how to act really small by enabling their customers to act really big. So that's interesting. Eric Schultz, is he running for president still, or did he drop out? Of Starbucks. We didn't dream up the different concoctions with soy milk. The customers did. So he's listening to the customers, telling them what kind of flavors. That's why pumpkin spice is so popular during Halloween. During the fall. 438. Companies who prosper today are the ones who understand the self-directed consumer. So you listen to your consumers, listen to the buyers. Whoa. You don't tell them what they should buy. Rule number 4, the best companies are the best collaborators. That's the horizontal collaborating, not the vertical top-down directives. Game makers have discovered that when they combine the right music with the right game, they not only sold many more copies, they could sell the music too. So you hear a lot of good music coming out of games, and people like to listen to good music out of the games. They'll listen to the music just by itself. I've done that. I've searched for World of Warcraft, the music from World of Warcraft, and you can find like a 5-hour video. Just listen to. I definitely don't listen to the whole thing, but just remembering what it sounded like in the Barrens or something. On page 440, we cannot be just a UK company, says Rolls-Royce. So you can't limit yourself just to one company and expect to really expand much. All right, 445. The Bank of India decided to outsource its backroom to an American-owned company. Now, I haven't looked into that much, but that's interesting. I wonder if that American-owned computer company could be run by Indians, because there is a lot of Indians in San Francisco, and they may have banded together and formed some corporations. Not sure what's going on in that environment. 449. Firms that are using outsourcing primarily as a tool to cut costs, not enhance innovation and speed growth, are the minority, not the majority. So if you focus on cutting costs with outsourcing, that's not the popular way to go with businesses. Cambodian typists didn't have to know English, only know how to type English characters. That's interesting. Cost estimates to save a life in the U.S. is 5 to 6 mil. You can save a life outside the U.S. for less than 100. Bill Gates. Bill Gates has been quoted quite a few times, and he's quite the philanthropist. 466. The only way out is through new ways of collaboration between the flat and unflat parts of the world. So undeveloped and developed parts of the world need to collaborate more out of necessity, most likely, because that's the best way to motivate people is necessity, feeling pain. 471. Some of the millions of Indians on the outside of the gated communities looking in lose hope because more religious, and they become more religious, more tied to their caste, subcaste, more radical in their thinking, more willing to snatch. Hey, did my video stop? I bet it did. Yep, look at that. Man, I'll do this one. All right. That should probably be the last. Some of the millions of Indians on the outside, okay, more willing to snatch and create and view dirty politics as being the only way. All right. The only way to get mobility, since economic mobility is stalled. So yeah, they got the poor Indians have kind of a poor outlook on things. If America is now touching my life directly or indirectly more than my own government, then I want to have a vote. That's an interesting quote. This is like an Indian person saying this. He's saying that America touches his life more than his own government. That's like the Russian influence that Trump was facing. It's like America has been influencing other countries in some ways more than their own governments influence them. So they're taking more of a active role in politics from other countries. And the Democrats are saying that's wrong. They're embracing globalism in the same light. How do you do that? You tell like other countries stay out of our political business, but then embrace the globalism. It's combative in ideologies. You don't help the world's poor by dressing up in a turtle outfit and throwing a stone through a McDonald's window. You help them by getting them the tools and institutions to help themselves. I'm going to have to skate through this. There's quite a bit. I got to get out of here. It's 12:30. Somebody's coming in at 1. I don't want to be here too late. All right, I think I'm going to have to stop. 479. So I'm going to end the stream. Yeah, judges are selected. All right, I'm going to stop here.